mixture.
Hi folks, we're here with John Carpenter of Pennington Seed. Let's talk a little bit about seed selection. A lot of folks don't know the difference between an annual and a perennial. Let's tell them.
That's a good point. I'll tell you, annuals are plants that are going to grow their whole life cycle within this year. An example of that would be like our Buckmasters feeding frenzy. This is a mix that you'd plant in the fall. It would grow all fall, even through the midwinter, into the spring, but come late spring, early summer, it's going to die out and need to be replanted next fall. And you've got perennials. These are plants that you plant one time. Plant them one time, they'll continue to grow from year to year. They don't need to be reseeded. They don't need to reseed themselves. Those plants will continue to come back year after year from the plant itself. A good example of that is our Buckmasters Ultimate. It has the perennials in there like white clover and chicory. I'll tell you another interesting thing about annuals versus perennials is that annual plants tend to be higher yielding. They'll produce more in a particular year than perennials will. And it kind of makes sense because they're going to make their whole life cycle that year. And perennials they've got 5 or 8 years to live, so they're going to stretch that overall production across all those years.
John, what would be a good ratio between annuals and perennials on somebody's property?
That's a real good question. I like to put in at least 60% of my property food plots into perennials and about 40% into annuals. And I believe that, you know, I don't like buying seed every single year. So perennials, they may cost a little more money up front, but I don't have to plant them every year. They'll last.
But as far as the deer hunting, placing their tree stand up, which one's number one?
Well, Buckmaster Feeding Frenzy is definitely going to be the mix you'll want to plant to put there in front of the deer stand as a harvest plot.
And that's an annual, right?
It's an annual.
All right, folks, we hope you learned a little bit today. We'll see you next week.